there, and good day, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. I'm Steve Farrell. I'm a co-founder and the executive director of Humanities Team, and you all probably know we're a 501c3 nonprofit, almost 23 years old. Wow, can you believe that? Neil Donald Walsh and I and some other people launched Humanities Team back in June of 2003. So big shout out to all of you. First of all, there's some of you here in the green room with us, our Stream Plus members. I want to wave at you. Thanks for being here, Barnett. And I like talking to people, not just machines. And we're gonna we're gonna talk about sort of the machine uh, civilization that we live in now as part of this discussion. So, and a shout out to Barnett's friends, Humanities Team friends, and Stream members, and also to the Sign Network, Sign.network, and that's John and Summer Raymer, and they're broadcasting out to, gosh, lots and lots of sites all over the world. So thank you guys, and Sign Network, check it out. They're doing a lot of really good things, creating positive change in today's world. Okay, so the theme today is lessons on connection, friendship, and creative mastery. And you can see, because his name's right on the screen, I've got Barnet Bain with me. How cool is that? So, wow, Barnet, thanks for joining me. We're really
Oh
looking
God,
forward here.
I love being with you. I love our conversations, and I love this community.
Yeah, thank you. Barnett has been a great friend and partner. He's got his own masterclass on the Stream platform called Creative Mastery with James Twyman. So we'll get to that maybe near the end of the program. But we are going to talk about his new book that's out, which is really fabulous: How to Be a Friend in an Unfriendly World. And so I'm going to just throw it over at him in a moment. Let me just share it first, though. We are live, so I'm coming to you from our Humanities Team studio here in Boulder, Colorado. Barnett's in a very cool location. Barnett, you live down in where?
I am I am about 100 yards from the Malibu State Park.
Okay.
So I'm in the wilds of Southern California, in the mountains of Southern California.
Wow. So how cool is that on this December day down there in Malibu? Yeah. So Barnett, thanks for joining us, and total pleasure and privilege to have you with us. And let's dive right in here. So we can almost make this like a book signing, right? Where we can kind of go down into the book. Maybe he'll even read a couple of these really cool passages. And I've got all kinds of questions for
Uh,
Barnett that I want to get to. So Barnett, let's just dive in here.
well, I'm so glad to be talking about this thing. This is my passion. And here's the thing about friendship. No one ever taught us how to do it. We just like fall into it, like, like a pothole. And sometimes it's smooth sailing, and sometimes you lose a tire. And I have lost many, many tires on my long road to friendship. And so eventually it got to a point where I thought I really want to dive more deeply into this for myself. And out of that came this book that I'm so excited to share with you. So yes, let's treat it as a book signing. So if everybody is well, you don't have any choice, do you, folks? I'm going to read a little bit from my. I'm
Awesome.
going to read a little bit from my new book.
Great.
To friend someone, our child, our partner, our colleague, our neighbor, our closest confidant, we have to grow. That's really it. Friending requires growth. Otherwise, we surround ourselves with people who are mirrors of who we are, not who we can be. And that's a form of narcissism. Narcissus, the boy in the Greek myth, got lost in an obsession with his own reflection in the water, unreachable by love and connection. Well, we can get lost in that way too. Not long ago, I had a reckoning with this that made it abundantly clear to me. My daughter Sophie was on a holiday break from college, and we decided to go out for dinner one evening to catch up. It was her first time away from home, and she was excitedly filling me in on her new life, how her classes were going, what she was doing with her free time, who she was spending time with. Much to her surprise, she was met with a litany of questions from me that were heavily laden with concern, and I wish I could say otherwise, but judgment. She looked at me with a mix of irritation and alarm. Who are you, and what have you done with my dad? This is not how you showed up with me for the first 16 years. What is going on with you? Well, just as we all want for our children, Sophie had gone off to college and started to lead her own life. I had always told myself that she had my unconditional love and support, that she could make choices different from me, that she could be different from me and not lose my love. But once she moved out of the house and took off on her own path, another part of me came rushing in, one that had lots of expectations and questions to match. Did I like who she was dating? Did I approve of the friends she was getting close to? Did I approve of her extracurricular activities? I suddenly had a whole crock pot of opinions and preferences bubbling away. It was easy enough to tell myself that my daughter had my unconditional love, but I was confronted by what had become glaringly obvious. As soon as she became more independent, more herself, my whole internal narrative shifted from I love you without conditions to, whoa, but hold on here. I approve of some of your choices, but not all of them. Inside my head, I had a very binary conversation going on. You're doing that wrong. You should be doing this, not that. Upon further examination, I saw that this dynamic was true for me across the board. It wasn't an isolated pattern. I found that if anyone was too different from me, they were either invisible to me or I judged them. As for my friends and other loved ones in my orbit, I'm certain that when I judged them, however silently, they felt the hostility wrapped up inside those judgments. I discovered that I was hurting other people just as I had hurt Sophie, and I didn't know it. After so many decades of psychological and spiritual growth work, I was shocked to find myself nose to nose with this part of me that had successfully resisted change. Inside my little bubble, I had all sorts of belief structures that supported my contention that I knew how to love, that I was a lover of people and life. But when someone crossed that boundary line of my values, my love suddenly became highly conditional. This passage with Sophie was difficult for both of us. I had elevated my own thinking over hers. I discovered that I did not give my daughter, my wife, my friends, or anyone else in my life permission to be too different from me without losing my love. I love you unconditionally was a fairy tale I had been telling. And it took this long to expose the myth because my story bubble had been so solidly constructed. My storying around every aspect of my life was far more rigid than I wanted to admit. As long as I see myself reflected back, I'm fine. This was the ingrained agreement I had with myself. My daughter had the courage to let me know how painful it was to be judged by one of the people she trusted the most. Her emotional honesty was my catalyst. When I finally let in and acknowledged the truth, I wanted to pop that bubble and grow my story to be infinitely more inclusive and supportive. It was humbling to realize that I didn't know enough about being loving or being a friend. I didn't have sufficient resources in that way, but I knew that I wanted to grow in that direction.
Wow. That certainly is attention getting. Thank you for
That's
being
why that's why
so.
I wrote the book. Um, I didn't write it obviously because I had it figured out. I wrote it because I knew that I was unconscious of how deeply I hurt people. And all the while, I thought that I was so loving.
And
And
of course, I'm sure this was part of the reason you wrote the book. In this, you're telling your story, but boy, aren't you speaking for many, probably, in terms of how this works, where we live inside our bubble and think we're unconditionally loving, until something like this comes along that just rocks our world.
It does rock your world, and I sort of sidled up beside it time and time again for many years, many, many years. But it was always, a head thing. It didn't land in the body, in my heart, until I was confronted with directly by my daughter, by the pain that I could see on her face. And I thought, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, but I could see evidence.
Right.
I could see the evidence. And then not too long after, I had another experience. If when truth comes knocking, it knocks and it knocks and it knocks again. It comes as a whisper. It gets louder and louder and louder until it's shouting. So not so long afterwards, I was walking in a park nearby my house, and I saw this street performer. And he had these two long sticks and a length of yarn tied between them and a pan of soapy water. And he would dip the sticks in and he would create these big soap bubbles. And they were wondrous. Just he would could make all kinds of creatures and animals. And it was captivating. It was entrancing. So I innocently am watching this thing. And then he goes to his finale, the pièce de résistance. He creates this bubble and it is huge. And then he steps inside of it. So he's entirely encased in this shimmering, shimmering soap bubble. And I suddenly realized this is what I do. This is probably what we all do. We operate inside these bubbles of our conditioning, of our upbringing, of our education, of our political environment, our social environment, our religious environment, our sexual environment, and on and on and on. And now, shovel onto that our algorithm environment. And so when we function inside these bubbles, and when I encounter somebody else in an aligned bubble, a copacetic bubble, a harmonic bubble,
Right.
it's like a Venn diagram, where I can see myself. It's cool. And if people are in bubbles that are too, if they're, God forbid, there's no overlay, then I push back on them. Or perhaps worst of all, most tragic of all, I make them invisible. They don't exist for me. And
Well,
I thought from there, it was a leap to realize, oh, well, so this is the magic of what friending is. The treasure in deep friendship. I'm not talking about the 5,000 plus friends I have on social media. I'm talking about a deep friendship. Is that it is an environment that allows us to rehearse popping that bubble. It allows us to recognize and acknowledge the positions that I hold inside the safety of that relationship and to allow myself to be changed by it. So, now it sounds like, oh God, it's so obvious, but I stumbled around in the dark, with the headlights on. I could see 5 feet in front of me. I thought I knew something about friending. I knew nothing. So I started with a book by Marcus Tullius Cicero, who wrote 2,000 years ago, which is as far as I could tell, was the first book about friendship called How to Be a Friend. And so in deference to Cicero, I titled my update, How to Be a Friend. And Cicero said his basic contention was that friendship Deep friendship. Deep friendship is it allows us to find another who doesn't seek profit or advantage. It allows us to be with another where each of the parties do not seek profit or advantage. And I thought about that. And 2,000 years later, not a lot has changed. How many of my relationships can attest to that, that there is no seeking of profit or advantage? So let me go into that a little more deeply. My family, my intimate circle, my wife, these are deep friendships. But they do have certain kinds of contracts. Now, I've been married for 40 plus years, so most of the contracts are now below the waterline. There's not too many of them, but there are some. And they're unacknowledged. Certain kinds of obligation, not obligations, but certain kinds of indebtedness. They're unacknowledged. I heard a woman in a grocery store berating her teen child, saying, "I labored for you for 12 hours. You can give me some respect." Now we laugh at that, but there is some juice to it. That doesn't just come out of nowhere. There's some juice to it, and it sounds benign, and it is benign, but there is a unilateral contract in there. You owe me. Now, this is what I mean by it. It's not bad. It's not wrong. It just is. Now, there are two kinds of relationships that are free of that. One is my dog, and the other one is a deep, committed friendship. Now, I make the distinction between, I talk about friendships in that way, capital F friendships. This is a friendship that has obligation, but not indebtedness. It is freely given. As Cicero says, doesn't seek to profit or take advantage. So what's the difference between a relationship that has obligation, but not indebtedness? Outside my office window, there's a small garden, a rose garden. And I have an obligation to that garden to tend that garden. If I want that garden, I have to tend that garden. I have to water that garden. I have to prune those roses. There's no indebtedness. I don't owe it. The rose doesn't owe me. It's in return, you took care of me. I owe you. It is an obligation that is given to the garden out of which I receive pleasure and growth. So this is the secret sauce of deep friendship. It's the secret sauce. It's a relationship that helps us become better. It's a moral teacher. A true friend, in the way that I'm talking about, calls you upward towards courage, towards generosity, towards growth, towards wisdom, not towards sometimes criticism, but not to passive aggressive criticism, not to cynicism, not to. So it's a very different recipe, and it's one that requires equality. These kind of friends, they stand on equal footing. If there are power imbalances or flattery or fear, it distorts the relationship. Can I have friendships with people who are much younger than me? Yes, I can. But those are largely mentorships, or there's a certain kind of energy. They're my friends, but there's a certain kind of energy distinction by virtue of the fact that we don't have the same level of life experience. So I can have empathy and compassion for somebody younger, but somebody who is my peer, with whom I can explore becoming more. I can explore the boundary line of what we're going through. That's a very different prescription. I can have friendships with someone who is a multi-billionaire, but there's a power imbalance. And I can tell myself, no, that doesn't exist, but it exists. I remember as a young man, as a boy, I was at an art school in the UK in London, and I remember so vividly. I had a circle of friends that included some incredibly well off young people. And I remember a couple of them saying so casually, "Well, we're going to go to Paris for the weekend, and then we're going to go ski at St. Moritz. You want to come?" And I'm living on like 2 cents a week. So these things, that is a big example of friendship. This kind of friendship, it does require a certain equality. There's a certain these kinds of friends, they stand on an equal footing. So I've said a lot. I could go on and on and on because this is my consuming passion at the moment. But I'm going to put a pin in it for the moment.
Yeah, yeah, no, wonderful. We've really got this conversation going here. So you've lit a fire for sure. Let me. I meant to give Barnett a proper introduction. I'm not going to do the whole introduction now, but for people that don't know, I want you to know some of his film credits because they're pretty amazing. So Milton's Secret, Oscar winner, What Dreams May Come, Emmy Award nominee for Outstanding TV Movie, Homeless to Harvard, The Celestine Prophecy, and then Jesus, which was translated into I don't know how many languages. It's often cited as the most widely seen film in history by the New York Times. So, if you,
2,200 plus languages.
yeah, wow, okay, and you didn't even know there were that many
I
languages.
had no idea.
So that for those of you that don't know Barnett, he's What Dreams May Come is still one of my favorite movies of all time. Unreal. Celestine Prophecy, and Jesus. Wow. So, so this book, thank you for this was a nice way to start into your book with just going down into your personal story and acknowledging what I think probably many would want to say is true. This bubble, that we kind of live in, right? And so then, but then doing the homework, going back to Cicero, going back 2,000 years to start really think deeply about what does this mean instead of because what we sometimes will do if we're really into something is just start thinking about it, not necessarily researching it, thoroughly like that.
Mhm.
So let me some of the context here. There's so many things I want to get to as we talk about the book, but you brought in this context of STEM, the STEM generation, which actually exacerbates this friend problem we're talking about. So can you bring that in, Barnett?
Well, for those of us listening that don't know what the STEM curriculum is, it is a concentration on math and science and technology. And what it eliminates are the humanities. And so it is a reduction in focus on drama and music and art. And so some may ask, well, so what? Who cares? Drama is frivolous. So I submit that if, as a young person, um, playing in a school production of Oklahoma, what what it means to step into a role of another human being. It sounds like it doesn't sound as consequential as it really is to step into a role and have to act to do a pretend. of somebody else's felt experience in another circumstance, perhaps in another cultural environment, perhaps in a more mature or a less mature dynamic. It grows us. And if nothing else, it grows our sense of compassion when we walk. But as that saying goes, when you walk a mile in another person's shoes, you don't. When you take off those shoes, you're a changed human being. So the whatever other gifts the humanities offer young people, they grow them as they grow their capacity to have empathy, to have compassion, particularly compassion. Why do I say that? Well, I hold that compassion is an active caring. It's not like a sympathy. It's not a Hallmark card. It's active. You take action. It is an active caring for somebody else, born out of your personal experience, often suffering. So you have an empathy and then you take action. That's compassion. Even if the compassionate action is simply an acknowledgement and a well wishing. In Eastern traditions, there's a tradition called metta, where you do a meditative practice in which the whole practice is wishing others well. So a young person can have sympathy. A young person can pretend to, they don't have a life experience to have gone to hell, come back, so I know what you're going through. You're young, for the most part, you don't have the life experience to be able to be a compassionate. It's not a criticism. It's not a problem. It's simply developmental psychology.
Yeah, just
So
to today's world that they're growing
and in
up in.
today's world, you're even more isolated from these kinds of experiences. But what drama does is it introduces you to a circumstance. You're playing Shakespeare, you're playing The Sound of Music. It introduces you to a felt experience, generally beyond your years. So these are very important in order to foster, to tend, to cultivate the garden of your own highest capabilities. What makes us human? What makes us human is not simply our ability, our cognitive abilities to slice and dice facts. Important. I'm not dismissing them. I'm not reducing their importance. But equally important is our soft skills of empathy, of compassion, and of feeling, of having the capacity to feel, not to have thoughts about feeling, which I can attest to personally. I had that for 40 years. Thoughts about feeling, I mistook for feelings. Feelings happen in the body, not in in your mind. And so an education that is devoid of the humanities does not expose young people or old to a curriculum that feeds that or that develops that. And as it pertains to friending, to friendship, friending is a creative act. The magic, as I said, of friending is that it allows us a space to rehearse the discovery of who we really are, where I'm awake, where I'm asleep, where I'm reactive, what have I got, what am I holding in my bubble that I am heretofore unaware of? What is the thoughts? What are the beliefs? What are the decisions? What are the attitudes that I take for granted? What they come up in a friendship in a safe environment. So a friend, so that a friend has the permission to question it. Or if you're on the other side of the equation, you see something and can a friend tell me something messy without me flinching or fixing? And in a friendship, it gives you the space to be a little messy and to not lose the love of the other. You have space. I'm with you. This is also baked into our marriage vows. Sickness, health, rich or poor. It's baked in. That's what it means. It means this is a container. I'm not going anywhere. Whatever's going on, I am in the game. We don't even have an understanding of what those vows are about. Once upon a time, again, it's old person talk. I was taught that, what that was about. I was taught it, and even then, it took me decades to let the penny drop. So we in the friendship we discover, well, I'm triggered, it's a little messy, and I am in a container that allows me to explore. It allows me to ask, well, this is about what's going on with me. Is this original with me? Where did I get this? Is this a hand-me-down thing? Did I get this from my culture? Did I get this from my friends? Did I get this from my education? And I honor the relationship enough to be changed by it. When one honors another person, we honor someone or something by our willingness to be changed by it. That again happens inside the crucible of the relationship. In the Ten Commandments, honor thy father and thy mother. Well, it doesn't mean slavishly take on all their stuff, good and bad, take on all on. It means be willing to be changed by them. Take on what works, take that on and double down on it, be willing to be changed by it. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. I'm going to double down on it. And conversely, that really, my parents had some beliefs, some attitudes, some decisions that probably I could build on and improve upon, or maybe it works for me to abandon them. But it's a considered thing. I honor my parents by taking them seriously enough to pause and to see, do I take on the whole pile, the whole playbook? So we don't go through life with our parents. Well, unfortunately, many of us do in the inside game. But we do go through life, if we are fortunate and we know how to tend that garden, we do go through life with a friend who affords us the possibility to discover more of who I am, to mirror back more of who the other is, and to honor each other by being willing to be changed by them. And friends, the real friends, they desire each other's good for its own sake, not as a transaction. I'm not going to get anything. There are many people who approach me in my life, and there are many people who I have approached in my life, and my secret agenda is I'm going to get something. I either want a relationship so that
Right.
I can have more status or more fun, or there's a business thing. In a real friendship, in the kind of friendship I'm talking about, that is not a consideration.
So let me just come in. First of all, you've dropped many of the value propositions of what this, I think, friendship is that your book is getting to. As soon as you hit on some, boom, I'm changed by them. I mean, it's one example. You've got a number where it's underscored and highlighted. Boom. I've seen 5 or 6 or 7 of them, but I don't want to. This is your book. As you talk about hacks, or as you now have come to you've crossed the alphabet, you've done the homework, you've thought about it extensively, you've written this book, by the way, is doing really well. I've gone in last few weeks to look at where it is on Amazon. And of course it's sold in bookstores, but this is really doing well.
It is.
And I
It'll
know
be in all the airport stores in February, which is International Friendship Month, and so it is the International Friendship Month selection in all the airport bookstores.
wow, congratulations, that's huge.
That's great.
Yeah, that's huge. Congratulations. So yeah, what the hacks, or now I don't even necessarily want to use that word, but as you're now out in the world, Barnett, and you're meeting people all over the place, what are some of the things that you're looking for that's saying, boy, I just nailed it, in terms of what this value proposition of friendship is for you?
Well, there are some practical takeaways, very, very practical, actionable things. One is, in these kinds of friends, and in fact, every relationship, even in my 5,000 plus social media friend group, none of whom I know, you do your best to show up in ways that provide safety. If your friend doesn't feel safe with you, that's the ball game. Forget it. And safety doesn't mean bubble wrap. It means not weaponizing their vulnerability. So if somebody says something vulnerable and authentic about themselves, you you create space for it. You don't come back and diminish it. There's no sarcasm. Sarcasm is a great killer of friendship. It just makes everything and everyone unsafe. It's a violence. So you just make it safe. Somebody says something messy and you want to react, you pop it at neutral and you go, why am I reacting? Now, in Cicero's time, things moved in one pace. It's not the same thing in 2,000 years later. We move at such an accelerated pace. Life goes so quickly that it's harder than ever to pause. And again, that is one of the treasures of a deep friendship is you're allowed to say, time out, give me a minute. And so that we don't become reactive from our bubble of conditioning, of psychological and traumatic conditioning. We don't just react. We have the space, the beat. We can take a beat so I can choose. I feel reactive right now, but why? So I'm not going to react the same way. I'm going to choose differently. Another one is everybody's a little afraid that people will disappear. I still have that one that I'm going to lose. People are they're going to leave me out, or I'm going to be left out. And in that regard, consistency matters more than constancy. It is that garden outside depends on my consistency. So not my intensity. If I come at it and I just water it like crazy every 6 weeks, I still am going to have I'm still going to have a desert, not a garden. So it requires a commitment, and that is one reason why the kinds of friendships that I am most interested in. Yes, these are guidelines and handrails for how we treat everyone, how you treat the world, but to develop depth, to become close and tender with another person. That can't be done. I can't become close and tender with a 2-acre garden unless I'm in an industrial thing. It's no longer personal. I can only handle so many friends. I can only handle one wife. There are those from other cultures who've questioned me on that, and I said, but I don't come from that culture, so I can only speak from what I know. So you reduce the fear of loss by being consistent. Nothing shuts a person down faster than embarrassment. And so when somebody is honest with themselves, you guard that moment. You know, somebody admits a mistake or does something that exposes themselves to embarrassment. My new discovery is my new go-to is, yeah, I've done that too. It's okay. I've done that too. Or, this other one we talked a little bit about the- honoring. Everybody is carrying uh, I call it an invisible backpack, their family, their culture, their hopes, their fears, their history. I don't have to like what's in it, but I can respect the weight of it. And so when I am confronted by something that comes up, I now ask myself, do you want me to listen or help? We have a tendency to want to fix. And the reason we want to fix, this is perhaps even more true for men. The way our bubbles are built, we have little tolerance. We have almost no tolerance for our own feelings. We're numb to them. And so we have very little tolerance for other people's feelings. And it's a somatic, we're uncomfortable with it. So we rush in to fix it. And it looks like, but I'm being nice, I'm being kind, I'm being generous, I'm a considerate, loving person. That's what it looks like. In fact, it shuts down another person. It creates a hierarchy. It preempts listening. And as my wife constantly tells me, I'm not asking you for a solution. I just want you to listen to me because the solution is I'm just emptying my reservoir. I don't need you to fix it.
Yeah, I've got to come in with I've done that too. Oh boy, with my life. Oh
And this
boy.
is not an easy thing. This is by no means, oh yeah,
Yeah,
simple. It is by no
yeah.
means a simple thing. I mean, how many people listening to us can recognize this? You have like a medical thing, something is going on, and everybody who meets has the doctor. You got to speak to this one. Just listen to me. So this is a big, 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 big one. Sometimes people say, "Oh, you're writing, you've written a book on friendship, and what's the best?" Just had this over Thanksgiving. What's the best go-to for Thanksgiving? I said, well, there's only one. You put down your phone, you look somebody in the eye, you're aware of your impulse to fix, to change, to fill the space. You just look them in the eye, you give them your full attention, your thoughts become like the radio in the back, and that's it. Oh, but I feel uncomfortable. Well, then learn to deal with that. That's a growth edge. Why do I feel uncomfortable? Well, I have to fill the space. I'm in my body. I'm actually feeling feelings, maybe for the first time. You put it down, you look them in the eye, and you're with them. And that is the greatest gift you can give to another person, friend or acquaintance. People that you are friends with or people that you are friendly with. Or family or anyone. The greatest gift you can give another one is your presence. I'm with you.
Boy, let me go just jump on that because this thing we're at 55, 5 minutes before the hour. We've got to
Wow, that goes
go off the
fast.
air, and this thing is. I wanted to make sure we got to this creative mastery program too. So I'm going to
Sure.
ask a question that actually goes at your book and creative mastery, and actually at your whole life and your film because I've been fortunate to be friends with you, and that's this notion, not this notion, but this truth that actually everything is a love story in our life. talk about that, please. That is so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, every story is about connection. I've been a filmmaker for my entire life, and I realize that every scene on the screen or in our lives is about relationship. Who's listening, who's not, who's awake, who's asleep. And every interaction, every action, never mind interact, every action, no matter how subhuman, no matter how monstrous, underneath it is because I want to matter, because I want to be taken seriously. And if I'm taken seriously, or if I matter, or if I have impact, even if, ISIS, all these guys hanging off the back of a truck, well, they have a brotherhood. We're on a team. We have a great cause. Doesn't matter what the cause is. That is not the point. So we're all brothers and sisters in arms. Why? Because now I'm not alone. And what do I get out of that? Well, I belong. And what do I get out of that? I matter. I matter. Earth, I matter. And if I matter, well, I'm loved. The bottom line of every expression of existence is a love, is the desire to receive love. And there is one that the sages refer to. This is not in my personal experience, except as a cognitive idea, as a concept. But there is one that the sages refer to that is below that. It is to give love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, which is that's the real friendship, at least in the first person, as we're talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
every act of no matter how distant it is from my bubble, from your bubble, that is a desire, that is a search for love. And it may look monstrous to us. We may not agree with sociology of it, the politics of it, the racists of it. Underneath it, the bottom of it, this is my misguided nose to the trail of love.
Yeah. Beautiful. Which and of course, humanity's team is about conscious living or awakening oneness, and these are when you say, well, what is conscious living, and when you awaken oneness, what is its basis? What is its true nature? It is love. It's love. That's it. And at the end of our lives, right? And the mediums and the ears, they say, oh, that's we don't look at the bank account or the vacation home. It's basically how loving were
And
we?
these sort of friendship hacks that we're talking about, if I lean into, well, what is my understanding of love? And of course, it's developmental. It's only, it's by no means ultimate. It's just my own kind of developmental growth. The qualities of friending are the qualities of love that I can reach out, provide safety, reduce the fear of loss. Another one is, listen, be with somebody. I'm trying to control them with, I'm going to fix you. Another one is provide pleasure, emotionally, mentally, physically, as appropriate,
Right.
because joy is not fluff, it's fuel, and fun is medicine. And as far as I can tell, all things pass. And so what we take so seriously along the way, it passes. What doesn't pass is the pleasure we give and receive doesn't pass. So that probably supersedes the striving, the struggling. And as I look around, exemplars of people who are functioning in various different spiritual traditions at the high levels, they're laughers. So that's a big one. These are qualities of love: providing safety, reducing the fear of humiliation, honoring where people are coming from and where they're going, providing pleasure, forgiving, which isn't forgetting necessarily, it's just clearing the static so that connection can come through again anew. There's this old saying, I don't know if it's old or I made it up, I'm not sure, but you never forget where you buried the hatchet. So, so So it's not compulsory to forget where you buried the hatchet, but if you act as if long enough, perhaps you forget where you buried the hatchet. The key is to know I have a hatchet here and I'm going to take actions. Again, compassion. I'm going to act, even though I know there's a part of me that is still hanging on. I'm going to act differently. I'm going to act differently. And then I see clearly, I allow people to be who they are, not who I need them to be or want them to be. So I drop control. For me to drop control, I have to first identify my control. I didn't know how the degree to which I controlled my daughter. Doesn't matter if she told me her entire life. I didn't know. So we're open to the next big insight and we're willing to be changed by it.
So, Barnett, we just have a couple minutes here, and you've got Creative Mastery, this masterclass with James Twyman. Barnett and I were just talking about a masterclass here around, becoming a friend. So, for all of you stream members, it might take a little while to bring that to the platform, but get ready. So, I love though your creative mastery program, and again, we only have a couple minutes. If you want, is there any soundbite you want to throw on that? I thought you and James just really even made the program in a very creative way.
Well, we love doing it. I think we have a clip. Maybe we want to run a quick clip.
Yeah, yeah. The only I think that the clips though were well, sure. Let's do it. Okay, Jim, play. We've got four. Grab the one that you want to play, and then we'll just take a minute to talk about it as we close. Okay, here we go.
We commonly think of paradox as something that exhibits a contradictory nature, and we tend to leave it at that. End of story. But paradox is much more than contradiction. Paradox is the holding of two or more separate frequencies of thought or feeling simultaneously without any loss of attention from either task. More important, paradox is a channel of communication through which our third story selves reach out to us from beyond logic and reason. Each of us has had loads of direct experience with paradox. In the appreciation of a sunset over the ocean, the Mona Lisa, a thoroughbred bolting out of the starting gate, we go, oh my God, how beautiful. So what's beauty? Well, it's in the eye of the beholder, right? Oh, yeah. At the level of form, that's true. But remember, form follows function. At the level of function, beauty is something else. Exhilaration plus serenity, experienced simultaneously, equals beauty. So in this example, beauty is the harmony of two paradoxical energies lifting to a higher order of complexity. It's an energy cocktail. Now, imagine what might happen if we start creating paradox on purpose. When we intentionally play with paradox, holding two or more seemingly disparate things simultaneously. We're laying down virgin brain connections that unleash ultra creativity and innovation.
There. Yeah, I would say that's a strong suit, where you're distilling down things, which is what you did during this interview and then that little clip. That's creative mastery. It's a masterclass developed for humanities team by Barnet Bain and Jimmy Twyman. And it's beautiful. So, and then we've got another one on the way here. So, okay. Barnet, been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. And Godspeed with this book. I'll look for it in airports here in February. That's exciting. And to viewers, check it out. Again, you can go, Amazon's easy, or we've got our local bookstores. We want to support this time of year too. So check it out. Boy, it's what a fabulous book. Some say this is the new superpower, being a great friend. Makes sense. Okay. So thank you, Barnet, and we'll be in touch here soon
Thank you,
on
everyone.
creating a new program with you. Sophie says hi, and hi to your Sophie. Okay, and love and peace and blessings to you all, viewers. Thank you for being with us. We
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
everyone.
Been lovely here this past hour, and we'll see you tomorrow when we do our highlight of faculty that we do every Thursday. Okay, love and peace and blessings, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.